it's critical. You have to. If you don't, you're at a competitive disadvantage.
Daniel studied geography and sociology at uni, after which he sold gourmet food door to door. Both what he studied and the subsequent work in sales where he thought were just interesting areas to try and didn't necessarily have a future role. However, life has some circularity to it. After uni, he travelled the world working in branding agencies for 20 years. He recently launched Conveenie.com, a community space sharing platform, so it's gone full circle. Living in London now, he's a devoted uncle and loves nothing more than spending time with his nephews, re-experiencing everything anew through their eyes. Daniel spends other free time acting and singing, where the original idea for Conveenie came from, keeping fit, travelling and paragliding. Daniel, welcome to Trampoline's podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I believe it's the second podcast in this new space. Hope to do a lot more. But yeah, this is a second podcast in the new office.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a lovely space you've got here.
Yeah, it's coming along. I think
it's homely. I feel pretty welcome. And you've got the Conveenie colours as well.
Yeah. That always helps. But yeah, it's coming along. We're looking to share the space as well soon. So if you want to use it in the future,
I certainly will. I mean, I live just up the road on Woolworth, so I think having a space where you can come that's outside of the four walls of home is really important. To be able to connect with like-minded people on the program, is really important. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Once it starts, running, and then hopefully we have a lot of people in here, and then you can, share ideas and help each other out. And
yeah, that's what's
better than being by yourself at home. Exactly. If you have a question, you can just do that to the person, like, how did you do this? And
yeah, just bouncing ideas off one another and feeling supported and just connected to a wider community.
That's it. So for those of the viewers who might not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, and obviously Conveenie as well. Am I saying that right?
Sure. Yeah, Conveenie.
Conveenie.
Wow. Where to start? So my background's actually in branding and design. So I had a career of like 20 years in that, working in all different industries and sectors around the world. But about 4 years ago, I realised something was kind of missing from my life. I was feeling a bit disconnected, a bit isolated, and I realised I just needed to take a positive step, kind of go out of my comfort zone, try something new. So I just made the decision to try amateur dramatics and a local community choir.
Yeah. And what is that for those who might not know what it is?
So amateur dramatics is it's acting, non-professional, but I hadn't done it before, so it was a big leap for me. Yeah. And after signing up, by the end of the day, I'd been cast in Pride and Prejudice as Mr. Bingley. So I was in and I was doing it, and it kind of opened up this new world for me. A local world, but one that I felt a lot more involved, connected, built some really lovely relationships with people, and particularly with the acting, you're kind of co-creating with other people. You're working on a project together that's driving towards actually a finale. Yeah. And you're learning, you're growing, and it was a great experience to get involved in the community. And through that process, I came to realize how vital local community space is, and how important it is to literally and physically bring people together in these spaces. And there was a bit of a aha moment when I realized that the experience of being able to find local space isn't actually easy at all. As a guest, maybe you've got to search endlessly, maybe you've got to call, email, you maybe don't know what facilities or amenities or services they've got, how much it costs, how big it is, kind of the list of, needs goes on and on. And then from a host perspective, it can be antiquated. It could be like literally writing bookings down on a piece of paper. And so I kind of identified this two-sided market where there's friction. It's not an easy experience, and I thought there's got to be a better way to be able to find and access community space, and for hosts to make the most of their space, because they should be used ideally 100% of the time, right? Because it's an asset, and it's an asset that should bring some money back to those organizations as well. So I had the seed of an idea, and actually during COVID, I did an MBA, online MBA, and convinced the rest of the group to go with this idea, and completed that work, and it all went really well. But it was still it was just sitting in the background, really, as a hypothetical idea. It wasn't real, so I was still working in my job. But it just kept on eating away at me, and the fear of actually trying to make something real. You can give yourself so many reasons why you shouldn't do something. Will it work? Is the market going to be there? Are people going to buy it? Will I be able to expand without a team? There's competition there. All these reasons. But to cut a long story short, April last year, I decided to go for it and see if I can make this work, because I really believed in it. And I gave up my job and started with a foundation, which was the brand strategy, something I was familiar with. That came really naturally. And then I worked with a really talented designer from previous agencies, and we brought it to life with a visual identity. I was like, wow, now we've got something. It's real, it's tangible, and I've got a name, Conveenie. Kind of says what it does on the tin. It's convenient, it's easy, and trademarked the name. And I was like, wow, I can identify with something now. There's a company. It's actually real. And so I began the process, which was, speaking to local community leaders, speaking to local businesses, speaking to the people that might need or want to use space. So that kind of informal research right from the start was really important. And then I found an agency who could start building the platform, and we iterated. We looked at, what is that user experience? What are people looking for? How can we make it easy? And throughout that process, which I thought was going to take 4 months, and it took like 7 months, I was constantly speaking to hosts. And there's a few reasons for that. Getting instant kind of user feedback. B, like building a network of interested potential hosts, customers that would be on the platform. And I think most importantly was, it's kind of what we said at the start, working from home can be isolating. And actually getting out in the community and meeting hosts just like raised my energy. I didn't feel alone. They were supportive. They wanted to be involved in something that is, trying to create a new paradigm in community space usage. Carried on that process, working with lots of other specialists, whether it's lawyers or copywriters, marketing experts, and launched it in February of 2024. And it was a massive step. There's a sense of vulnerability in something that's been behind the scenes for so long that no one's publicly seen, and then it's there for all to see. not dissimilar from actually acting, right? You've been doing it all in the background and practicing and finessing and all of that, and then you're on show. But you've got to take that step at some point, and I did. So I realise there's a bit of a long explanation, but I think it's important to, share with listeners what that journey was.
No, like there's a lot there in terms of this, the process, because some people might think starting a business is just you get the idea and that's it. Tomorrow you go about starting it. But like you mentioned, you went into acting. Was that more of a hobby, or was that
As a hobby?
As a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And that's what allowed you to kind of identify this need, right? Which is a bit, it's unique, because most people will just be there because they're enjoying themselves as a hobby, they're acting, but you actually was aware what's going on, and you was like, there's something missing here, like there's a need that is not being met.
Exactly.
But yeah, like how, you're acting, like you said, it was a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So how was you able to still be thinking about a business idea when you're trying to perfect your...
I think by nature I'm a really curious person. And I'm always kind of asking why, or why is something like this, or if there's some sort of frustration in an experience, what's causing that frustration. So whilst I had a great time, as a hobby, that question, that curiosity sort of nagged at me. And curiosity leads you to ask more questions. So the more questions you ask, the more you delve into it, and it pulled me in. Whether I was speaking to local hosts, or local groups, whether it's a yoga teacher or a performing arts group, or it could be a mother and child group, you name it. They've all got needs, but why aren't those needs being easily met? And then, the further I got into it, the more I saw that there was a real opportunity to solve it on both sides of that market, and that everyone could kind of win from a solution and an ecosystem that addressed that problem.
And I feel like you putting yourself in those situations, going to those acting, talking to hosts, that probably, like you said, it's in your nature to kind of be curious and just want to learn. But like putting yourself in those situations enabled you to kind of gain that confidence. So through the acting, maybe you got more confident.
You know what? That's probably quite true. I think continually trying to go out of your comfort zone is a good thing. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it is actually true. And you just reminded me of something. When I was first sort of starting out, building the platform and going out and meeting those hosts, I would literally be knocking on doors around the area. And that's kind of scary when you're doing it for the first time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'd often find reasons not to knock on a door. That's not my environment. I'm not going to be welcome here. They're not going to be interested. And you know what? Most people are pretty welcoming and hospitable, and they want to be helpful, and they've got knowledge and insight, because that wasn't my background. So I'd put it on the table. I'd be like, look, I haven't done this before, but you're an expert in your own right. You've been doing this for years. I want to learn from you. And I think people appreciate that too. So bottom line is, try and dispel those negative thoughts that come into your mind and try and give you reasons to not do something, and just for a second or two just say no to those negative thoughts and go in and talk to people and, you know, challenge those things. And yeah, once in a while there's going to be some people that maybe aren't receptive to your idea. That's okay. It doesn't need to be for everyone.
No, so I feel like it comes back to when you mentioned, you know, having the idea but then not starting, you know, just taking that step to actually start and make it real. You know, like you said, a lot of people probably have good ideas, but they don't have the confidence to kind of go out there, like knocking on doors. You know, someone might be like, I can't do that. And that's it, that business idea is gone because they don't have the confidence to put themselves out there. But, you know, how important would you say, like, taking that first step and actually, you know, making a start? Because, you know, like you said, you had the idea, then you was like, you know, playing with it, and then you actually took the step. Like you mentioned, you quit your job, and now Conveenie's what, 100?
We just got to 100 spaces,
100 spaces.
Yeah, which is kind of surreal. So I guess the question is around like taking that
step, starting.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that it's not all or nothing, and you know, people can set up these really high expectations for themselves, and then if they don't meet them, then you say you failed. And trying something, and if it doesn't work out, that's a success. You've tried it and you've challenged yourself. And when I say all or nothing, I kind of committed to doing it. But doing that first step and actually concretely putting the brand strategy on paper and then bringing it to life in a visual identity, that was a massive step. And it gave me momentum, it gave me confidence that I had something, and a sense of pride that, you know, this is mine. And little steps can obviously lead to more. It's stepping stones. And, you know, if I thought about all these stepping stones that I'd have to go through at the start, you maybe won't go through with it. But one thing leads to another, and you build confidence and knowledge and connections. You know, I didn't know I was going to be part of Trampoline, but broadening those connections and networks and having the right mindset, things do open up, and I've had to sort of trust that the right opportunities will come along if you're open to them and you're looking out for them.
Like I said, like the law of attraction, like, is it law of attraction? So you attract the kind of what you put out there, right? But yeah, so obviously, you know, like you mentioned, you had the idea for Conveenie, but was there any other ideas you had in terms of business ideas, or was that just the one?
That's the one that that's one I just gravitated towards, and I kind of felt it in my, not to get spiritual, but I really felt it in my being, and I think, God, the reasons why I think it's really powerful. It's got community at its core, and I think that's something that, you know, can be lacking, or people that do have access to it and are involved know the importance of it and how vital it is, but not everyone does. You know, there's a lot of isolation in society, mental health challenges, people feeling disconnected, you know, too much time online, not enough time offline and in real spaces. So I think that component was really important. And I think whilst it's a for-profit business, there is social value that's created in it, whether it's more revenue for hosts, their space getting used more, greater exposure, and for guests that they're able to find these spaces where the magic can happen, and for whatever community activity or initiative or local business that they're involved in, they've got that access to convenient, affordable space. So that kind of win-win really spoke to me and has resonated with so many different stakeholders I've spoken to, and that keeps me going and gives me momentum. So a long way of saying, it's an idea and a business and a concept and a solution that I'm very passionate about, and that has value in so many different ways.
Yeah. So, obviously with your idea, it was like, it's very unique from my perspective. Like, there's loads of businesses who might make something, food, a product, jewelry, but, obviously the kind of the idea you had and the gap that you saw, it's fair to say it's very unique. So, and obviously, like you said, you felt like this was something that's gonna, be good to start, and it wasn't. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, a lot of people might start a business, but how important would you say it is to have, the right kind of motivation behind it, the vision? How important is that in order for your, business to be successful?
Well, it won't be if you haven't got that. Then it's just a job.
No.
You need to be passionate about it, a sense of purpose. Again, and maybe it sounds a bit cliched, but I do feel like I've got a sense of purpose, which I will say can be also the flip side is I'm always thinking about it. Yeah. Like, I wake up and I'm thinking about it. When I'm trying to go to sleep, there's ideas. Even on the weekend when I should be switching off, I might be at a makers or creators market, and I'll be making connections and speaking to people, and I'm curious about their business and things I can learn from them. So that's the flip side. When you're so passionate about something, it's really difficult to switch off. Yeah. But yeah, passion and purpose is key. And I'd also say surrounding yourself with like-minded people that aren't just going to endorse the idea because they're your friends or family, but other people in your network who can give you advice, sometimes constructive, people you can bounce ideas off, that can challenge you and motivate you and keep you going.
Yeah. So, like you said, when you have a vision that you care about so much, it's hard to switch off but then again, that's how it should be with a business, right? If you've got an idea, it shouldn't feel like work. It shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to sit down and do some market research. You'd want to do it yourself if that's how much you care about the business, which I think a lot of, people with startups, they might think they want to do a business idea, but it's not, the drive isn't there, which obviously, like you said, results in, feeling like work. Obviously, it's not going to be as successful as someone who's passionate about it and has a clear vision. But yeah, so, like you mentioned, it took some time before it officially was released. So was there other people involved who were, helping Obviously Conveenie now being 100, spaces. Was there other people in the background that you was working with, or was this?
So I've funded this myself. With some money that I was able to save from the job, but I wasn't able to employ anyone. It's a massive outgoing once you take that step. So I felt I needed to make it happen myself and prove it, and demonstrate that it's commercially viable. So I didn't have people that I employed, but I identified where I wasn't an expert, which is lots of areas. But I knew that I'd need to work with, a really expert lawyer. I'd work with copywriters. I'd work with a web design agency, animators. I'd find those people that I could bring in at the right times to make things happen. And some of those, relationships are ongoing, as we grow and iterate. But yeah, the question I guess was around how much I've done myself. So yes, I've been sort of directing and pushing everything forward, but pulling in the right people at the right times. But in terms of finding those hosts, and building those relationships, that's something that I've had to and wanted to do myself, because it's about those personal and professional relationships you're building with the hosts, and showing you've got that dedication and being able to respond to their their questions and challenges, and to get that instant feedback from them when starting out is really, really important. And that support from them, they've got involved because they believe in it and they want to be at the start of something new and exciting as well. So, there's a momentum from those relationships. Yeah. If that will make sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, I think what I was trying to get at is, like, sometimes, you've got people with business ideas or owners, but they want to do everything by themselves. And that's where it kind of, like, if you was to take making the website yourself into your own hands, you might not still have that website running now.
Yeah.
In terms of, I know you do your marketing yourself.
Some of it I do myself. Yeah. There's actually somewhat of a friend who was in a play with, who runs No Mystery Marketing. So it's like a really small boutique, but excellent at what they do around organic content and performance marketing. So it was great to have that relationship and work really closely with them. But yeah, it's knowing where your sweet spot is and where you can really add value, versus knowing where you need to kind of outsource things and work with the experts and learn from the experts as well. There's a lot I've learned that I didn't know. Yeah.
And so when you first started out, did you know that you would need a website, or did you have everything planned out, or was it more or less start and when I need, like, as things progress, you kind of like, okay, now it's time for a website, now's the time for marketing?
I having worked in like branding and design and running projects, I thought, let's treat this like a project. Okay, what are all the potential steps that I need to go through? Stick them in a timeline, have some discipline, and map that all out. And then, that gives you a sense of, you can take a breath, like, wow, I've got a bit of a plan now. Okay, so what do I need to do? When? Who do I need to speak to? Where are the gaps? And I had to learn to trust my instinct a bit. Some people said, just create an MVP, iterate with that, and see what needs to be improved. Yeah, of course, you're going to iterate and improve, but I felt I needed to go with a pretty solid product platform and actually get out there and start competing as quickly as I could, which meant obviously doing a fair bit of research on the market and parallel categories. Airbnb, they've been around for a while. I learned a lot from them, and obviously doing that consumer research. There was quite a detailed report that I got commissioned, so that I understood my audiences and personas, and yeah, things don't work perfectly in sequence. Some things overlap, but I knew where I was heading to, and I knew I wanted to have a pretty compelling product to go to market with, which is out there and it's working, and it wasn't obviously perfect from the start, but it's more than an MVP. Would I have changed anything? That in retrospect, there's probably things I've built into the platform that will probably get more usage in the future, but perhaps weren't necessary for launch. But that's part of the learning process, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point about planning out, having a timeline, because you probably have a lot of new business owners who might just start and then as the days go, just go with it and then get overwhelmed, not know the direction they're going in. But if you take some time in the early days to plan out, what you want achieved by 6 months from now, 12 months from now, then you know what you're working to. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that in front of you, it's like you're not going to feel that kind of control the progress, because you're going to be like, I started a year ago, but what have I done in that year? But if you have it mapped out, then you're like, website launched, product introduced. So yeah, I think,
and things can change. It's it's a work in progress, but at least having something down, you can have a firmer direction,
some kind of structure as well.
Exactly. But yeah, on that point, sort of managing time can be a challenge, especially when you're doing it yourself. Being disciplined with your time, and keeping motivated with your time, especially at home, you can get distracted, or there could be a customer call that comes in, or a challenge, and then that has to take priority because it's a customer. So it's having that discipline, but also flexibility.
Yeah, so it's obviously accountability. Like when you're your own kind of boss and you start your own business, then no one's going to tell you when to wake up, when to stop working, when to start working. That's all on you. So saying that, how do you go about time management?
So I've had to be disciplined, and right from the start, I said to myself, right, I'm gonna get up at 7:30. It's not too early, but and I'm gonna get to the gym. We'll go for a run, because I'm not great in the morning. I knew that's kind of a Achilles heel for me. It takes me a while to get going, but I knew that doing a bit of exercise, just gets you going, doesn't it? Get some endorphins. You feel like you've already done something with the day. Get your coffee, work out what the priorities are for the day, and just get cracking. And a new kind of routine I've got is don't work from home on a Monday, because you're setting yourself up for the week. You can set yourself up in a energized way, or you can do it from home where you're feeling maybe a little bit lethargic, a bit isolated, and that's made quite a big difference for me. And the other thing is, it goes without saying, but just like having a plan for the week, what the big rocks
Yeah.
that everything else needs to fit around, that are removable, and other things will slot in. But having those important points in the week that are removable and will get done, I think is important.
Yeah, no, I think, I agree on that point. Like you've mentioned, on a Monday, not working from home, just because you don't want to be in an environment which isn't motivating. And that's why, like with me, what I like to have is like my desk needs to be clean and ready. Like you want to go sit at the desk. You want to have to pick up 10 things and then rearrange this, because one, that's wasting time and you're not going to feel motivated to go to the desk, right? So, having your work environment where you feel motivated, even if it isn't that case, you mentioned you go to the gym or for a run, to get you, wake you up, motivate you, and that's when you get your coffee and then sit down and go, this is what needs to be done. But yeah, no, I think, time management definitely is an important one.
And like yesterday, for example, I had a great Monday, like really energized, had some really interesting meetings, and because I was so like pumped, I just kept on going till like 10 o'clock, kind of like riding that wave of energy.
Yeah.
But now I feel, well, got my Red Bull and I'm feeling more energized, but you can't keep it up the whole time, and there's going to be highs, but there's going to be some lows, but it's just kind of accepting that and knowing that it's temporary.
And how strict are you on, okay, it's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock, I need to switch off now? Or are you someone who just works until, you want, like, if you're in a flow, you're going to keep working?
I think if I'm in the flow, I probably will keep going. Yeah. But I've learned to be a bit more, what's the word? Comfortable with myself if I'm like just taking a bit of time off. So there's an afternoon and I'm just really not feeling motivated, and just a bit directionless. One way is to try and push through that, which sometimes you can do. And the other way is just, it's okay. You can take a few hours off, go to a gallery, get some inspiration from somewhere else, put some distance from that modality.
Yeah. And, would you say like you're motivated 5 days a week, or would there be days where, you're like, I don't really want to, you procrastinate a little bit?
Yeah, totally. And Monday was that day often. And I think it's about realizing when that happens, why it happens, and thinking how you could switch things up. Could be a change of environment, could be what you're eating, could be who you're with. It could be, I realized I was procrastinating a month or so quite a bit because I didn't have kind of an updated timeline or plan of where I was going. So I felt anxious and discombobulated, and just a bit of a shotgun approach to things. Yeah. And I said, right, next week I'm going to spend a day focusing on the timeline and plans and goals for the next few months. Yeah. And once I had that, I just felt a lot more in control.
Yeah. And do you have like a calendar which like clearly has your tasks listed for the day, or do you have
so I'll have that broad timeline, and then I'll look at the week ahead, like referencing that timeline, and think, okay, what are the key things that I need to, the rocks in the week that I need to get done. And that's, some of those things may change. You might have a host meeting that needs to move. Things change, but I think having like a pretty strong plan for the week keeps you disciplined and motivated, and knowing where you're going.
Yeah, no, because I found myself in a space where I was waking up and I'll just do a random task, whatever I feel like. But the problem with that was I'll jump from one thing to another.
Totally.
And then, one thing's half started, half complete. Then I'm jumping to another one. Then, because it's, so easy when you're on your...
Everyone does that. And especially, when you're on your phones. What I found is a challenge. I'd never really used Instagram before, and that makes me sound old, but I'd made an intentional decision not to use it. But obviously you have to. So early in the year, I kind of exposed myself to it and started creating content. And the reality of it is it's your business, but your business is a reflection of you, and you're a reflection of your business. And having that ever-present sort of public evaluation of your business is it's quite emotional, and you got to be quite mindful, not to continually look at it and get distracted, and also not be too impacted by positive affirmation from that, because that's not what it's all about. It's an important tool.
Saying that, obviously, like you mentioned, you wasn't primarily an Instagram user, but obviously now I guess you understand the importance of it in terms of marketing, getting your business out there, your personal brand. So how important would you say that is, to someone who might be watching who has a business, but they're not leveraging social media in terms of advertising their company?
It's critical. You have to. If you don't, you're at a competitive disadvantage. So it's just parity. You need to be on there. But how engaging is your content? How often do you post? Who's it with? So I haven't had like a specific content calendar, but I've just kind of trusted my instinct and thought about the audience and what might be interesting and engaging, and have a bit of fun with it, actually. Business doesn't need to be serious. And I think the beauty of what I'm doing, I feel very lucky that community is so wide ranging in terms of the events and occasions and gatherings. So there's so much to capture and celebrate. And now that I'm, Conveenie's getting bookings, there's a fantastic opportunity to actually capture those events. And it's kind of the trinity of Conveenie, the host and the guest coming together to create some magic. And I want to capture that magic and celebrate it. And that also builds trust and a bit of excitement in what's happening in the ecosystem. So wherever possible, I want to get out there and be involved in those events.
And there was probably a time where, in order to advertise your business, you'd probably have to pay a lot. You might have to know someone, but now you can literally just pull out your phone from your pocket, record whatever it is, take a picture, and get access to thousands, millions of people.
It's incredible. I mean, we're at a point in history where the barriers to starting a business and the tools that enable you to start a business are so low. There's so many free tools out there. Once you discover them, you feel like you were unlocking a bit of a hack. But it's constant learning. like I've focused on Instagram, but I totally realize there's audiences out there that may be using TikTok a lot more. So I need to find ways to duplicate and expand that content for different channels.
That makes sense, because you don't need to make unique content for every platform.
No.
These days, like the way social media is, you can make one piece of content and that can be used on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So, it's not as time consuming as it used to be. It's very, everything's so seamless now. The way things are, like, it's all about viewer retention now. Like all these platforms, they want you constantly just scrolling, which is what people do on TikTok.
And again, like the barriers to entry, we're living in a time where AI is here, it's here to stay, and it's getting better and better every day. And to the point before, I haven't had an employee, but in some ways, at some points, I've kind of felt like ChatGPT has been a colleague, like, just bouncing something off and having a different way of thinking about it, or phrasing it, or, you can use it to help write content.
There's a lot of tools out there now that, you don't even have to think. Obviously, you want to tailor it as much as you can to what your voice and your brand's image. But like you said, ChatGPT now, you can write me a post, write me whatever it is, and then you can even tell it to make it sound more professional, make it sound less serious.
Or this is the tone of voice of my brand.
Yeah. Add this little bit. It throws it out for you.
It's a tool, and it's a really helpful tool. It's a time saving tool. But yeah, like you say, you obviously need to review and edit, but use everything at your disposal.
And there's so much now out there, and it's all on your phone. Like, you don't need a fancy setup with a laptop, desktop, whatever it is. It's just all on your phone.
On the flip side, I've found that it's really important to be at physical presence at events. So I was at Herne Hill Sunday Market recently, with the big stands up and a roll of paper that kids and families could write on. What does community mean to you? Just nice engagement, and just talking to people and getting feedback and spreading the word, and you can get some interesting content there as well. But the purpose is about being a physical presence and showing a commitment to your community locally as well. And it's a fun day out.
Yeah. And obviously networking is just it's going to help you grow 10 times quicker than if you was to hide behind your laptop all day, thinking you can do it all from there. Because like you said, going to that play, you met a person who does websites, is that right? And you're not going to find that person sitting at home. So going to these events, you just meet people that you can work with, get inspiration from.
I think it's natural as humans to find these connection points and overlaps in our lives, and I think we're ultimately designed to help one another, and it kind of comes back to what Conveenie is all about. We're not islands, where we are all connected. We need each other. We support one another, and the world's a better place if we find ways to come together.
Yeah. And for someone who's watching who might be interested in renting out a space or maybe looking to host on your website, what is the process? So if a viewer's watching,
if you're a guest, I've tried to make the process just as easy and seamless as possible. So you go on to www.conveenie.com and you can search for your local venue based on dates, the type of activity, the number of guests, maybe the type of venue. You might already know what you're looking for. And you could filter by price, distance, the amenities. Is it accessible? Does it have some sustainability certifications? And then you can check availability and go ahead and book those sets of hours that you need on that date. And there might be some add-ons that you want. So I don't know, a projector or some other equipment that the host is offering, and you can just add those at checkout. So really easy, seamless, and yeah, just pay through, online means, whether that's via link or credit card, debit card. Very easy. And then the host will approve it, and you'll get reminders before your event. And yeah, your event will go ahead, your host will look after you, and then you have the opportunity to leave reviews and ratings after, to build that trust in the network. And then from a host perspective, whilst I've been onboarding every host in person, it's theoretically an automated process. Probably takes about an hour in total, and you can add discrete spaces within your venue overall. So you might have 4 separate spaces that have all got different services and furniture and qualities to those spaces, and availability, of course. So you'll have complete control over that, as well as the pricing, and yeah, get it on the map. And I'll help you get on Conveenie and be part of the community.
Yeah. So if anyone is looking to rent out a space, the link to the website will be in the description of the video. Same if you're a host who's looking to host out their space, they can click the website. We'll have contact information for you.
Yeah. So either automated in terms of start hosting on the website.
Yeah, even easier.
But do just get in touch via the website, through my email, or on Instagram. And like we were saying, I just want to build that relationship with you and come along on the journey together. So get in touch, even call me. What's wrong with a chat nowadays? Even better. Let's see how we can create something together.
Perfect. Yeah. So we are coming up to the end of the podcast.
It's gone really quickly.
Yeah. So to wrap up the episodes, we usually do quickfire questions.
Okay.
So, first thing that comes to your mind, just, don't have to think on it too long. So the first question, what is your favorite thing about running a business?
Autonomy, variety, surprise.
Next one, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Wow. It's actually my grandma's quote. It just sticks in my memory. Surround yourself by radiators, not drains.
Okay. And what is that?
Basically, surround yourself by people with people that give you energy rather than drain your energy.
No, that's I've never heard that one. That's a good one. And the last one, where do you see Conveenie in 5 years?
5 years. That's a long time. I'd say geographically expanded. We're just in London at the moment, so expanding through London into other cities, and just continuing to unlock that community connection, events and magic locally, but on a much broader scale.
no, I'm sure it will grow because I've seen the website, seen the locations that you can rent out the spaces. It looks very good.
Thank you.
And I do believe we will, be looking to rent out some spaces for networking events in the future. So yeah, it'll be good to work together.
Fantastic.
And yeah, that is the end of the podcast. So
thank you. It's been a really energizing conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time to be here. And yeah,
fantastic.